I didn't see anything about it.
Yeah, interesting meeting so far. So
I've learned a
Very
lot.
productive.
I admire everyone's patience on this matter.
Just
I mean, has the
volumes.
same substance since compared to the meeting with the governance. I think this had the same outcome than this meeting until now.
True. A lot of talking, not much action.
Yeah, I would when they announced it and what they want to showcase and everything, I thought, yeah, finally something is moving. People take charge. Developers can just make code and develop, and communication will be done by someone else, and something happening. And then after 3 weeks, I asked, hey, what happened now? What is the gain of it? What is the conclusion 3 weeks later? And Brett just said, yeah, not much.
Yeah, we'll need a committee to decide the outcome of the last 3 committee meetings. Are we waiting on someone in particular?
Yeah,
I assumed that the guy who set up this meeting was going to be there as well. The
Yeah,
undead.
that's the smart thing. Yeah.
I think we need Mr. Undead for this matter.
Well, he should be there because he is in fact not dead.
True.
This one was
Accurate.
flat.
Yeah, so unfortunately I don't have any knowledge about the progress on the GenHub, so I can't really speak for him. So he has to come.
As a Dutch person, I would now make jokes about Belgian people, but I guess this is not
Make
the time.
jokes about Greece people. Ronan is here. So if anybody wants to fuck with Greece, you're welcome.
I think we need a Greece localization for the game. That would be good.
You mean Age of Empires?
No, 0 Hour Generals.
I think you missed the joke.
That's possible.
Did somebody ping our missing developer?
He doesn't seem to be German, otherwise he would be here, yeah? I was 5 minutes early. I am German, so I hold the flag up for Germany, yeah?
Punctual as ever. But then you have made jokes, so I'm not sure about your nationality now.
That's right. That's good.
He's offline, according to Discord. I will write him, hi. We are waiting for you, smiley.
General. Yeah, I mean, he was the one who asked for this, so yeah.
Maybe he mistook his own time zone.
Yeah, maybe wait a few more minutes, but then it probably makes more sense to postpone this.
Do you have anything else to discuss in the meantime, since we're here?
Well, I guess work on the code, implement the features, fix the game. What else can I say?
Stefan,
Okay.
do you see a need for the General's Online backend source code to be released? Because Daniels was thinking about it yesterday.
Well, it needs to be. It probably needs to be open source at some point when it's safe to do so.
Yeah, my thoughts was, for example, if we would open source it now, then some bad actor could grab it, could grab the source code of the client and make like a copy of it and abuse it. And since there are, for example, at night or very early in the morning, there are no people online, somebody could fail for it and not be suspicious if there's nobody online. So it could be a security risk, I think. Like you could abuse it right now.
Abuse in what way?
You could set up a copy. You could set up you can just grab the source code of the client from GitHub right now. And if you also have the source code of a backend, you could just make a copy and claim that it's original Generals Online and abuse it, add something malicious into it or something.
Well,
You mean like spoof the server?
Yeah, something like this. I mean, if we have like everything is ready, like we have our community patch and there are a few hundred players online or something, somebody would see that something is wrong then when there's nobody online. But in this early stage, if we release it, then somebody could spoof it. Yeah.
Wasn't the point of the General's Hub thing that they would have one place to download it from? So then it wouldn't really like now you need to download a separate installer, right?
I don't
yeah,
see
General's
how
Online.
I don't see how this is a problem. Like if this is a problem, then any open source is a problem like this. So
I tend to agree with that. As far as I understand it, we're connecting to a specific like destination on the internet, and like not to some general some kind of socket source that'll distribute us. So it's not like you can spoof that. You'd have to connect to the spoof server, so they'd have to steal the web address. That seems hard.
yeah, so someone would need to like publish their own game client that refers to a different server URL, and then it
Yeah,
would
something
connect
like
there.
that.
But the use case for this is that people spin up their own servers, which is a legitimate use case, right? So let's say someone is unhappy with how Generals Online is run, is administrated, right? Then they could launch their own version of it. Now, like obviously we don't hope that it doesn't go that way, but it would be a use case if someone wanted to have their own space.
Yeah, if somebody wants to use the source code to make their own project and that's within the license bounds, then that makes sense too.
So I wouldn't worry about this. I think you just need to make sure that the code itself is robust and that it can't be exploited in ways that you can do remote code execution or stuff like this. So
Yeah, we would need to review the code before we do this open source. That for sure.
I don't think it's urgent. I think it's just something that needs to happen in mid or long term, right? And it also, like for the longevity of the product, it's good that if it's open source, because if you just have one maintainer that has access to it, then basically what happens is CNC Online. right? Where things don't advance and never get fixed, and yeah, it's just a
Yeah,
mess.
if it gets ghosted, the project, then yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it will happen at some point. Like, you can't expect that someone keeps working on this for 20 years, right?
Mm.
It's very unlikely. Like, typically the lives of people change. They get married, they get kids, they have new opportunities and obligations, and things change and focus change, and they lose interest on the old things and gain interest on the new things. And yeah, it's always like this. That's why
And
open
the,
source is good, because then you can just, like, someone else
Yeah.
can pick it up.
I don't expect kids because he's an old geezer, but yeah, I know what you mean.
So how old is everyone here then?
Old.
I'm sure everyone here was above the age of 18 when they first picked up the game, right?
No,
Right.
I was 15 or 16 years old.
I was way too young to play this game.
I don't even remember what the age rating was. Wasn't it like a 15 or something?
Yeah, like me.
Oh, in Germany, it was 18.
Yeah, of course, everything that involved death was 18. Blood had to be green, and the German 0 Hour has all the guys are cyborgs.
Yeah, I got a copy of original Generals. It was later Generäle. It was a rebrand, and I think this was the one with the cyborg voices. But I got one that was published original, and it was called Generals. I think they got it out of the store after a week or so.
Yeah, I also have the uncensored Generals, but the 0 Hour is the censored one. But there is this uncut patch for 0 Hour, which somehow got hands on the unmangled audio files. So it is possible to get all the German 0 Hour audio without the distortion effect.
I even got the original CD still, I see. Must have bought this game about 10 times or something, I don't know. On CD, then CD the first decade, then on EA app, then on Steam app. I paid multiple times for this one.
Bought the deluxe edition in box again, so the 4 CD one, like 4 weeks ago or something, because I lost my old copy.
Oof.
Is this with this blue cover where you have the different CDs in it?
No, it just says deluxe editie on mine. I don't know how to describe it. I can send a picture, but it's on my desk right now. The old discs that I had when I was a kid, my mom put them above the strawberries to keep the birds away.
Oh, that's hard.
Ah well, my brothers lost the code anyway, so it was useless.
Did anybody play the original on PlayStation at all?
No, sir.
It's playable with a PlayStation controller. It's displayable.
Oh yeah, the funny thing about the PlayStation and console versions of the game, they had features which the desktop version didn't have, which were really nice to have and way ahead of their time. Like the command bar disappeared when you weren't using it until you moved the mouse into that corner of the screen.
Which game?
The original Command and Conquer on PlayStation.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I didn't play that one. How many people played CNC3 on the Xbox 360? That's more my speed. The amount of things that they put into submenus that you had to use weird controller bindings to get to. And I was reasonably competent at that. That was scary.
It's why whenever I've heard them talk about putting certain MMOs onto console, I'm thinking, well, how do you put this 64 grid task hotbar into a console game when every single bit is filled up with some kind of skill or another?
Yeah.
Ola, you were present yesterday on the meeting?
Yeah.
I hear the part that Lemon recorded. This project manager thing. Is there anything or any person or progress or any idea that somebody said, "Hey, I do it" or something? Because for now, I only saw, "I have no time. I have no time. I have no time."
I don't think there was any progress on that so far. It's only been a day.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I don't know. Somebody raises his hands. "Hey, it's me, Zezan. I do it."
Well, this will probably take years.
So do we reschedule yet?
Yeah, it doesn't look too good.
But he's going to turn up in like the next 40 minutes because he's an hour late, or he thought the time was a different time.
That he finds an empty chat, you think, yeah?
Yeah.
If it's an hour, it's going to be an empty chat. Yeah.
Developers are expensive.
And did
I
not
just
get paid well.
Yeah, the pay on 0 hour is really poor.
Yeah, even the cheaters fuck off here. This rude guy that threatened us, he said, "Oh, these people are so poor. I go and to some game else and I fuck off." And he fucked off because nobody gave him money.
What did he expect? Everyone is broke in this community.
Wasn't there also a guy talking about being a security expert and he would give us his guidance if we paid him?
Yeah. This one, he showed up at Generals Online a week later and tried it with us too. He was funny guy.
So did you hire him?
Yeah, for sure. The cheater first want money from us, so he said, "Yeah, I release this sheet if you don't pay me." And a week later, he wanted to pay me. So he thought that I kind of can give him like security issues on Generals Online, and he wanted to sneak someone into the World Series, win it with the map hack, and share the prize money with me.
Undead wrote that he's coming now.
Oh, he's coming?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We have passed the first test.
Yeah, a slight delay, right?
I've watched Kung Fu Panda. I know how these things go.
Monkey.
I only worked 4 hours today.
That's 4 more than me.
Yeah. The aim is 10 hours a day on the weekend.
How do you find the time?
Well, you make the time. I think when people say I don't have time, then I think it just means I don't have time for that particular thing. At the end of the day, everyone has the same time in the day, 24 hours. It just depends on how you fill it, right?
That is correct.
Tell us Italian people.
So if you spend 4 hours eating, then yeah, that's 4 hours there. If you spend 12 hours sleeping, then that's that. If you have family, then you spend time there. So yeah,
Precisely.
whatever your priorities are, you spend the time there.
So if you work 10 hours on the weekend, how many hours do you work on a work day? Like a Monday?
On 0 hour,
Whatever it is that keeps you busy working.
well, job is 8 hours, and 0 hour 4 hours, so 12 hours.
It's quite a dedication still.
Yeah.
And there's Undead.
Hello.
Good morning.
My excuse for being late. Something just ran out. It ran out, not time, but I had to do something that ran out. My excuse. Before we begin, let me first share a whiteboard that everyone can also access in the first place. Right. I think I'll be sharing it in this dev voice chat. When you click on the dev voice, there's a chat for it. It should be right there. I will also be recording this video, so that everyone knows. Okay. Well, I can also share my screen for those who want to follow along. Okay. So before we get started, let me just tell me a couple things about myself first. I am Undead. I'm like fairly new to programming, let's say. I've been only programmed for like 40 years, and C# has been my most experienced language I've been proficient in. Well, it's also my most knowledge area. That being said, I'm also aware that there are some areas I'm lacking in, not proficient in. So I also hope that people will also help me and steer me in the same way as we develop and go further in this project. That being said, our first point, bullet point regarding this meeting, I would like to start off with the vision and principles for the GenHub application. At the top, there's like a card which has the bullet points on it. First of all, for the application, an important part that we see happen for this is that it is a decentralized ownership, meaning no one controls it directly. No one has direct control over it, but everyone still owns it. That's why we also have this manifest and publisher-driven ecosystem that we've developed in a way whereby every single content that the user can consume, like game client, mods, maps, which are currently available, are being described in a content manifest. And then there are some other expansions like new content servers or newsfeed. They can also be thought about how to be implemented in this manifest ecosystem. Following up on that, it's also the user choice, meaning the people subscribe to the publishers and then they consume the content that these publishers eventually release. In order to accomplish this, we're also making use of workspaces. What this means is that each game profile that's been created will be having its own workspace in order to isolate and keep installations clean, and that way we can also authenticate and verify that the person is actually playing on a clean installation. Furthermore, we also have to make sure that GenHub is cross-platform. Currently, Generals isn't cross-platform, but in the future it will be. So that's why we're also developing it on both platforms. And lastly, we just have to make sure that whenever we add new contents to the GenHub application, that nothing else breaks, and we can keep adding more extensible features to it. This was basically the overall vision principles for the GenHub application. Are there like questions or concerns regarding this topic? Okay, let's take this a no. Before we go further in the current state of the application, I would like to go over to the timeline, because I think a lot of people already know how it works, and then there are probably people who never saw it or don't really understand it properly. So the timeline, I can come all the way back, but we don't need to go that back. I'll just go a simple overview over it. Like way back, it was only Zazon and his time project, working on re-implementing everything in generals. I mean, C++, I mean. During that time, they also had a balance patch of sorts, which was basically data and configuration changes. It was also an extensible effort to improve the game. Many of these changes include also fixes that would basically make it impossible to play with retail, because the changes are so they're basically causing a mismatch between both versions, that there's no crossplay available. So then eventually the source code got released. This opened like past 7 months to a new avenue of possibilities, and that's also where the super hackers came from. It's a group from old time project members and new passionate developers who are now like heavily working on it actively. They also have their own goals and visions, working on different phases. Well, after they started working on the game, there was also another development team, which are more so concerned about the multiplayer aspect. This is the Challenge Online team. But more importantly, before they started developing their application, we also had the idea first. How do we centralize people? How do we bring the community back? How do we make sure that everyone can play the game they want together? And that's where also the GenHub idea first sprouted. We had to eventually our initial goal was set basically to be able to manage the game clients, the versions, mods, the add-ons, and map pack. This was basically the first initial goal, sprouting idea for GenHub, and this is what basically how we started thinking about how to make this application. We're now in phase 0 if we see the timeline, which is essentially now and until phase 1, which is the first release of the super hackers of the rebuild. You can also read shortly about their descriptions, like for example how Channels Online is no more compatible, or for now it isn't, with the retail version. How the super hackers are still trying to retain compatibility. And for phase 1, we have prepared a MVP requirements, which will be our requirements for the past coming month. One of these requirements is the downloading update of the content. One of these content is the game versions, which is basically the community patch, the super hackers patch that the super hackers are working on. We need to find a way to download, update, and maintain or keep up to date with the client. Another prerequisite or requirement is that we have to manage the game profile, the content in the game profiles, essentially like the game preset. And the third MVP requirement, which is not exactly required, but would be very nice to have for our first MVP and for our first release, is the peer-to-peer LAN connection. If we can somehow make it so we don't need to rely on Game Ranger, or we can bring everyone together or to play together on the GenHub application on our first release, then it would bring a lot more people over and convince more people to use the application, because in their eyes it's a valid or useful thing to use. This is basically what we have for phase 1. And then you have phase 2 and phase 3, which are currently just ideas and how we might see them work out, depending on how other development groups like the Super Hackers and Go further their developments. Like, for example, further integration could be with Go servers, for example. We are more integrated with them. We can display different live matches and then allow the people play using GenHub to directly matchmake and queue up with the same people playing, having the same content presets, for example, like the game profiles. We also have a lot of quality of life features that can additionally be added, like the news content feed for live viewers, the tournament tracker. If you want to join directly from the application, you can sign up, link accounts, and then leave a comment on join a tournament, for example. Some nice things like mod builders for modders who can, like, for example, generate units and then see the changes of those units directly by modifying any changes. But for them, it's a UI change that they have to make to see the change. And then some hotkeys, if you want to make your own custom hotkeys, and control bars if you want to manage them. These are also some quality of life features that GenHub can offer. But these are all for phase 2. And then phase 3, which is a very far future, maybe even 2 years, 3 years, even more, where everything becomes decentralized, ideally with like custom servers, matchmaking, and the publishers would then create their own add-ons for these, which would be distributed through GenHub. Then that would ideally allow people with the same server content preset or same matchmaking preset to then play together directly using the application. One implementation for this could be like holding your own ranked verified matchmaking. That way, people who are matchmaking in this pool of people are all connected to one matchmaking. Or you can have a World Series server that only hosts people who are playing on the World Series. But in order to connect these people, you still need to have a publisher that releases the content manifest so that the users can download them. And GenHub will handle it all automatically while the user just clicks one button, for example. And this is basically all the phase 0, 1, 2, and 3 for the timeline, along with the past for how we got there. But that was a bit more. So are there questions regarding this specifically? No? Okay, it's fine. Regarding the workings of game profiles, if you go a bit to the right, I've created a chart of some sorts, you can call it, which describes how this visualizes how the game profiles are built. Currently, it's not game profiles, but people have to manually and individually go to these services. For example, if they want an add-on, they have to download Gentool and then add it to their own directory and then launch the game. And GenHub basically does this all via publishers. And then you would have one game profile out of many game profiles, which are made of these content items. One of the content items which is required is the engine, like the game installation. You can only have one, and you need one, or else the game you won't have any data. Next up is the game client. You also need at the same time one and minimum one, which can be offered by anyone basically. Like the super hackers offer one. Genos Online offers a game client, and EA, Steam, and Origin also offer the base game for this. And just like any other content, you can also add add-ons, mods, map packs, or patch changes. Like, for example, the balance patch. This could be a standalone patch that people make a game profile for. That was regarding the game profiles. In regards to the current state of affairs, we currently have 8 active milestones. And in these 8 active milestones, the MVP is declared in the first 3 of them. The collaboration has one of them. I think it is. It's not all. I don't think I copied now. But yeah, one of them is collaboration, which is setting up GenTool, porting over the features from GenPatcher. I mean, it's like making sure the system is up to date, and then making sure that some of the features like the GenPatcher hotkeys and control bars are also properly ported so people can install them. The other one is the basic game launcher, which also has a couple more milestones. I mean, a couple more issues attached to that milestone. I've also put a link here. You can click directly to see the milestones on GitHub. You have to double click it, and you can copy the link and go to the milestones, and you can see it more directly. But the MVP requirements for us basically have the game launching, displaying all these different contents, and then download and update the game application. And these are also the UIs. I mean, the issues that here, for example. One thing that's unlucky is I had more stuff on this page, but apparently didn't get properly saved. But there are a couple more issues that are more concretely explained for how the MVP would work, but the milestone also explains them. For example, I'll just make a screenshot and paste it. Oh. Two pictures I just pasted are basically summing up everything related to the MVP, the task related to the MVP, and most of these should be finished right now because I'm working on the last part of integrating everything together with the UI. It's taking a bit long because, ironically, the UI part is longer than every other 2 parts I just created a PR for. So that's that. But going back to the current state, I've created 8 overall milestones regarding this in no particular order. First 4 or 5, or if you have first 4 were a bit were made at the start, and afterwards I just after there were more issues created, I lumped them into a milestone. One of the important aspect we still have to discuss is regarding the quick match and lobby system. Here we have to basically delegate the tasks of implementing and laying down the infrastructure for the in order to make it so we can allow LAN connection gameplay. For this, we're also thinking of using the backend for Ghost server, mainly the stun and the turn servers they have for the relay and peer-to-peer connection. That's why I also have like 8 issues ready that combats the entire quick match and LAN connection system. Besides that, one of the milestones is about the content pipeline distribution. For this, I have an open PR. You can see on the right is 1089, I think. Yeah, 89, which is an entire content system for getting, discovering, and converting content you find, for example, via CNC Labs, ModDB, or GitHub into content manifest that GenHub can use. Some of these are also being addressed. Some of the issues, are being addressed in the PR that I have opened. So some of these are also, most of them are basically being worked at. And essentially, at the moment, the open issues are related to quick match, security, and some other not so important things are, for example, the community engagement tab. Are there now questions regarding or inquiries regarding this? Or people want to voice in?
I mean, a lot of things you're showing now, you need to discuss with Daniels, I think, especially the things with quick match and everything, because you two need to link up a lot of things. Like if you want to have quick match and everything in the launcher or in the application itself, then it will need to link up somewhere. Yeah, you need to link up to the server, and I think this will be a big part, a lot of work, linking this all up, like the back end generates online and the launcher. Until this all links up, this is a ton of work.
But that's only on phase 2, I think, because phase 1, or at least our MVP build, I think it's enough if we have some kind of, if you just replicate Game Ranger for now, and then allow people on 1.04 and the Super Record 1.04 to play on LAN using GenHub, basically. And then for phase 2, we can have more integration or work more on the connection side, so we can directly show the Go lab, the Go lobbies, and then directly connect using GenHub and linking your account. But for phase 1, it's a bit more simpler. I haven't really thought about it too deeply about how we'd implement it.
This would have also been my question as to like if you already had ideas how you want to implement this stuff. 'Cause to me, it doesn't sound like it's super straightforward, especially if we want to tie it together with Generals Online, which probably would be desirable in some capacity because we don't want to like split the users. But on the other hand, the point of this is to allow players to create their own like lobby, right? The same way that we do it right now with Redman and Game Ranger, right? But ideally, my hope is that we can build it in some way that all the players still see each other, right? Even if they are separated, right? So that the GenHub guy still sees who is in Generals Online, for example.
That's that's also like the end game phase where ideally we would want it to happen. But then we also have the immediate goals. What can we do now? What can we do in a month? And what can we do in like a year? And this is kind of more important. We have to like what can we achieve, and then what can we further work on later to improve what we have achieved now, basically. Because if we start small, we first implement the infrastructure and lay down what's needed for the matchmaking, the lobby system, connecting via LAN. And then we can also later more easily expand and connect with Go and showcase their lobbies, their players, and then they'll be able to directly connect using the application, the GenHub application itself.
Yeah, probably this. When we get to that, we can have separate meetings about that and talk strategies. Right? It's nothing that we have to think about now.
Just considering, do we have any information on launching the game into a network game from the command line or from some external client, and how to do that?
Launching the game. Currently, we have the entire game profile thing set up already. I'm working on the UI to make everything connected at high level overview and then low level implementations, so to make sure that everything is glued together and running. It is currently working mostly. It's just that I have to figure out how to get every content listed and then be able to distinguish between the game versions and the game installations stuff. But there is already something in place for launching an external application, like launching the channels application. That's what you meant, right?
Oh no, I was thinking more about if you're considering using an external lobby system in GenHub, kind of like what Game Ranger's doing. How do we actually launch the game into the online match with all the relevant information? Do we know how we give the game executable the right, I don't know, I guess, starting parameters for doing that and replicating what Game Ranger does?
Currently, we don't have CLI support. That was one of the issues. I think I created some couple months ago. But yeah, if we have CLI support, we can send custom parameters and then launch based on those. For example, like if, for example, you have a game profile set up, we can make a stub for it, and then it launches the game profile using, for example, / launch profile, and then a hash for it. But there are ways to implement launching the game via external applications, yes. Another thing we have to consider about is the security part of the application itself, mainly signing a lot of the manifest, making sure that whatever we're reading is also not tampered with. So because most of the stuff is persisted on the file system of the user. So some of the game profiles and stuff are just being read from a JSON file, and then we also have to make sure that the integrity isn't damaged from these files when GenHub reads them later on. Are there actual people who are currently who responded to Legionnaires' call who want to work on something right now? Because there are many open issues. There are very different avenues you can take. Some simple, some a bit more advanced. So if people are open to contribute, they can ask regarding any issue on how to tackle it, and then I can give most of the information regarding it.
My main question is how to get started, because I do want to help. I just don't really know how exactly the workflow is and which one of these things. Because I have a lot of experience with net, how do I say this? Like backend stuff, but none of these things is like, that this makes perfect sense to me. I'll go do this right now. So what would be the how do I start working on this? Pretty much. I know it's a broad question, but
have you looked at the GitHub repo, the issues, and the pull requests? There's like a lot of information there, and if you go to the milestones, there's also a lot of information on each issue and how they're collected. Have you gotten those bits, or are you familiar with those?
I did take a look around initially when I was added to this section of the Discord, but it seemed a bit overwhelming to me, so I was waiting for this call.
Okay. Well, regarding the networking side, there's really been nothing been done, so it's a clean slate. For contributions, make sure when you make a pull request that there are tests in place. We have, I think I mentioned this, we have continuous integration for our GitHub, meaning everything gets tested before it has to be accepted into the main pull, main branch. So there are checks in place first. So make sure those also pass. We can also have first discussions about how to implement specific features, but once there's some skeleton or a draft ready, it's more easier to discuss or idealize or brainstorm about how to implement the higher level view of these systems. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
But what do you specifically need to start?
That is a very good question. I would say clarity, but I understand that that's not how these things work in. Yeah, I don't often do open source development, so I'm not really used to the way of working. Let's just say it like that.
Maybe maybe you guys can do like side by side looking at things, and maybe he can assign you some tasks to get started with, and maybe there's a way to get into this pair programming. And yeah, like Undead should know like which systems can be worked on right now, right? Because he knows the progress so far. So
That is kind of what I'm hoping for, something like that. Yes. But I don't know if that is too much to ask. Again, I'm not familiar with these workflows.
Well, I don't mind showing you like the current system, but there's not much. Yeah, there's like a couple things I've implemented, like some patterns I've been following, some simple patterns like result-based objects and wrapping them around that, and then calling those objects so that it's all these uniform across different systems. So far, I've only implemented 4 systems, I think. One of them is a CAS for storage, which uses content addressable. There's a content pipeline for like discovering, acquiring, and resolving content manifests. And then there was the game profile and the game launcher system, which is what I've basically been explaining. So creating different game profiles. What you do need to understand is basically how the content manifests are made, and basically understand that everything is driven by this manifest, or like most of the system, like the game installation detection, the game version detection. These all rely on the game content manifest to validate and verify, and then to load and store them in CAS, for example. These are linked. Most of these systems are linked together by the manifests. But regarding networking, I've not touched it at all. The UI, I have not touched it at all either. For implementing standards and procedures to follow, for example. So there's still an open discussion regarding that, of how to proceed and so.
But the I saw somewhere that the something with backend is in Go and not in .NET, right?
I don't know. Go something else. Gens Online.
Ah, sorry. I saw the programming language Go mentioned. I was wondering why parts were in Go and parts were in C# or .NET.
Yeah, that's my bad. I didn't think people would confuse Go with general with language Go, but yeah, it's also in C#, I believe. They're working on C#, the backend, but
yes, General's online backup is mostly C#.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely need someone on the networking side as well on coming up with systems and basically making clean process while doing it. there's not much else I think I've directly implemented for like systems. Well, I forgot like the workspace management, for example. Like for making game profiles, we have a workspace which uses different strategies for implementing them. For example, copying them or symlink or hard linking them, which then gets called by the manager, workspace manager, which then gets called by the game profile, which get calls whenever the user makes, for example, a game profile. Those are actually the 4 big systems that I implemented. And there's some small services like the app update, the logging module, some universal configurations, and the settings UI. If you look at the Dawn, for example, part there, you can see them more clearly. The features I've implemented so far.
Now, just from my perspective, I would expect that for our immediate needs, all the stuff surrounding publishing and user interacting with the published content in a UI, I think that's the most important stuff. Like this quick match and lobby and networking and so, this is not important right now. But yeah, everything about publishers, user interactions, discovering things, downloading, installing, managing install, making sure that everything runs and there are no collisions and nothing breaks, and that just users can interact with the add-ons and mods and patches, then I think in a nice UI, then this would be fantastic.
The UI part isn't that much of a concern. When I'm talking about UI, I'm mostly talking about like the controller and then the periphery utility functions that you need to make everything actually combine. Like for example, one of being busy trying to implement is one of the issues is like, what ID do we give the manifest, for example? Like, do we follow a simple human readable content, like the publisher name, the content name, and then the manifest version to keep it like unique, or do we just make a GUI ID for it? And then this will require a separate service for managing and generating the manifest IDs, for example, which is not directly related to UI, but in order to make the UI work, you have to implement these smaller, not directly related functions as well. That's why also my newest PR is like 10,000 lines of code, which is only the UI. I say only UI, but there's also other servers and systems being added to it to make sure the UI does function.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, just the UI elements, showing them and working with the XAML code, it's not that big of a deal. It's straightforward most of the time implementing XAML UI, and the view models also make it easier with the converters. You can have a wide variety of freedom to implement however you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, yeah.
Are all the current systems that have been implemented, are they already interactable in the mock-up UI?
Well, it just shows the available content. It finds, for example, the content it saves in your cast store, like in your what you download, or you create a content manifest. They're all, for example, stored under available content, and the user just ticks the boxes and selects them, and then you have the game. Hold on. Then you also have the game. It was again. I just lost my thought. Was someone just walked in? I was talking about the settings window. Yeah. The settings window has the content that you can click on. For example, it's just one list and the available content that the user has, and then you have the game content. For example, the game version, and it shows a drop down of the user's game versions. These are detected automatically for now. For example, the game version, it looks for game installations. We have entire service for detecting game installations on Steam and on EA, for example, and on different platforms as well. Mainly on the Windows, we've been implementing it, and then it detects the game version, for example, for Steam on Windows, and then the user can select it. Same way they also can select the base game installation. If they want a generals or 0-hour game installation, they can select that via drop-down and then select the game version via drop-down. That way they only select one and at least one. And then once they select it, the game profile is being created and it shows in the UI a card item or a game profile they can select and launch.
Okay, there was a lot of information. So does it mean that all the functionality is already available in the UI?
Yes, well, a lot of functionality. It's just showing that you can select a content and then you can click on the game version and game installation.
Okay,
you can do this, yes.
So nothing important is missing right now that you can't do in the UI.
Nothing.
Okay. So as you develop the systems, you already create UI for it in some capacity.
Yes.
Okay, I see. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the current state is, like from a user perspective, apart from what you just described. But yeah, then I guess you just keep building the required systems and adding the UI for it, and then hopefully we get to a point where it's usable for the first release, or is it already?
Well, the UI can see a bit of cleaning up. It's not that nice to look at, but technically it is working, but we still need to have some of the features. We need to have a manifest builder for users because we don't have a way for publishers to create the content manifest, for example. Like another thing is the validation of the game installation. We still need someone to work on creating a game installation validator, which goes over the massive CSV file that contains every file in the generals installation to then cross-check if the game installation is valid. Like this system has also not been implemented, which is why I have to do a hack around it to not validate first and then not create a content manifest in order to have like the first MVP build showing like the functionality first. So that feature still has to be done for generating and for validating the game installation. And like that, just adding more UI stuff for polishing it and the gem patcher features basically, which are missing for the MVP build.
Okay, that sounds like you have already tasks in mind that can be tackled right now. Yeah.
Yes.
And I agree that so it would be good that any publisher can easily create these manifests through the GenHub UI without any in-depth knowledge of how to craft these by hand. It would just generate them easily if, like, for example, they point to a folder that contains their mod, and then it would generate like this manifest as an example, or you select the file or something, right? Or files, multiples. But yeah, we probably also need something that can generate it through command line so that it can be invoked by a builder, like mod builder. Yeah.
I can show you how like the UI works right now. I launched it and I also added the logo and the icons on my screen if you're watching. So basically just a scan. It just scans and it finds the game applications here. And it assigns them the correct values. And then if you go here, you can see the content. Currently I don't have any content manifests already, but it selects the game version and the base game installation. And then this one's like stored in the cache storage or local file. And then finds these very simple UI, just making sure that everything, but because these are their own systems, the game installation and game version, and then the general content, which technically this general content will also require their own systems. For example, for the patch system, if you have like patch files or mod files, it has to check if they're like conflicting, and if they're conflicting, it has to somehow merge the conflicting ini files. So there are also systems that have to be in place for this, but currently just meshes whatever is selected near together in one workspace, and then launches the game using that.
It's nice to see this for me, so I have a bit more of an idea of what is already there and like from which point we continue, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Do we already have publisher pages? Like, let's say I'm a publisher and someone subscribes to my publisher page. Like, can the user like have this in a tab, or like how's the publisher? Like, let's say I'm subscribed to 5 publishers. Like, how will these get presented in the tool?
Ideally, we would have a button or a way to import the content manifest, because a content manifest or the manifest file is always linked to a publisher, whether it's like a content bundle being referred or just a straight up single content manifest. They're always going to have to be a publisher. So there's going to be a button or somewhere to drag and drop, and then it's going to be a JSON file. And by doing that action, the user subscribes to that publisher by default. But again, there's no current system in place for importing manifests like that. But there are the systems are in place for importing the items, the manifest files from the content manifest, but not the content manifests itself, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm not quite following. So currently, new profile, what does this refer to?
It's like basically it creates this window where you can select a new profile like this, and then create your own profile.
Okay, so my expectation would be if I subscribe to a publisher, like let's say I subscribe to this No Life Studios guys, that they have like many mods under their publishing. So then I would expect that they have like all these different mods, they are available, and I don't own these right now, right? I do have the base games, 0 Hour and Generals, and so GenHub would know that, yeah, I can download and play this because I have the games. So how, like, is it that, you know, I see these as entities, or do I need to set it up, or how do you intend this to work?
Well, those should be handled when the user imports the manifests. The initial window would be like when the person ingests the manifest file into the application in GenHub, and then they will be presented of all the files and maybe where they're being downloaded from, so that the user at least can validate themselves. And then they can select the content they want. Then ideally, we will have the available content here sorted by publishers, because it's just being stored in every content manifest just being stored. So just query the JSON file and then sort them based on publishers, and then the user can select the content that are already downloaded or stored in the cache storage.
So the user would always need to go into this content tab and select something here? Is that
To
right?
download them. That's to download them. For example, if we might have it could be in the downloads tab, for example, here. Import publisher or subscribe to publisher, and if the user clicks on it, they will have a window where they can drag and drop. They can post a URL, for example, to a JSON file, or if they can directly open the link, which is a shortcut or like a command, like a GenHub command, which launches the application or interacts with the application because of like a protocol for GenHub itself, and then it would import the publisher. The publisher manifest directly into the game, into the application.
Okay,
Yeah, then they would get the UI basically. And then they would see like this publisher wants to implement these following contents. Then you can select which ones to download right now.
Okay, so my first impression is that it seems a bit complicated the way that the user can access the content. Like I would imagine if I get the link from the publisher and GenHub imports that link and then pulls the manifest publisher information, that the presentation of the content is really simple. Like the user doesn't need to go into any submenus or anything. He just sees the products and there is like a download button right on the thing, and when the download is done, there's a start game button, and like really simple. Like you don't need to put any checkboxes or anything. You see the products that the publisher has prepared, right, to be on his front page in the order that he has set it up, and then there's a download button, there's a launch button, and I'm good to go, and I don't need to do anything else. It just works. That would be, I think, the best case. No configuration unless there's something that I can opt in. Like, for example, let's say the mod can have add-ons, right? So you could have like the mod baseline, and then it could have an add-on for Control Bar Pro, for example, right? So additional on top. And then that you can then combine the mod with this add-on on top or anything else on top, right? And that GenHub would know, these things are compatible, and the publisher has set them up to be compatible, and so. But really simple. So maybe we need to think about a bit how this should look and how the user
That shouldn't be mostly an issue, because that's for if the user wants to go and import publishers. But then there are many ways we can make it simpler, because ideally the community outpost and the generals online already come pre-subscribed, so the user will already have the content manifest already subscribed to. So if they launched the app, for example, we can show a notification saying, hey, these are the publishers you are currently subscribed to. Do you want to download their content? And then show the content they have for like channels online and community outpost. And then if they want to download individual maps like mods and tools, they would then go, for example, to these publishers here, the ModDB. And then these publishers would have their own mods and add-ons that they would be publisher under. For this, I was thinking of like having them each by author. For example, you have one ModDB author for like author for one mod, and then it would be ModDB.author1, and then that would be the publisher, and then ModDB.author2 for another publisher, and then this will be how people get single content, not content packages, but like single mod pack, a single add-on. If they want to get it from elsewhere, this is how they see it. They don't see the content manifest, because that's in the backend they would be generated by the GenHub application itself. So the way they have to interact, the only way they have to interact with the content manifest themselves is if they want to import it themselves. And this can also be streamlined, for example, by just making a link. So if they click a link, the link already contains a binary 64 encoded string of what the JSON file is. So you just click that link, and then the application opens, a UI pops up saying, hey, a new publisher wants to be added, and then they show the content list. The complicated UI is more so for if you want to manage the content, it's the publisher itself after you've imported it.
Okay. Yeah. So my impression would be that the publisher already sets up his page in a way that he likes it to be presented to his users, right? So to show his products in the order that he likes them to be presented, and in the possible combinations and so on. So that the publisher sets up, the publisher has the authority to like give the first the default look on his page, and then the user can maybe customize it by rearranging things and stuff like this. But I would imagine that it would be good if the publisher can push like his content in a way that the UI displays it in the way that the publisher has set it up, so that the user has already something simple to get started with, and he doesn't need to set up anything beyond that. It's ready to go.
Oh, that is basically what the UI I was talking about. The UI that pops up, it could just be another tab, for example. Like in here, it could be Publishers tab, and then if you import a JSON file or click on a link, it automatically goes to that tab. And in this tab, it selects or it loads the configuration for every menu UI and how it looks like, the screenshots and stuff for that publisher. And then that UI will be how you select the content. Basically, what I said in the beginning, where instead of a pop-up, you now have a tab, and the tab is controlled by the look of the tab is controlled by the publisher, by the metadata they send in the manifest.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess it's all the stuff surrounding the publishers is probably something that can be worked on rather sooner than later when there are the resources for it. I think it would be nice to get some test publishers in there and then see how we interact with these guys and like what the user experience then is, and then go from there. Because right now, yeah, you don't have any content, you just have the base game, so it's like hard to see here how this will work right for us right now.
Yeah, that's why I also wanted to first have the every small step implemented and then they make the UI everything included, because I can't make the content manifest for like the publishers if I don't have a way to generate them first, or else I have to just manually write a JSON file and then manually put it in my directory somewhere so the game can read it, which is a hacky way of doing it instead of making a service for it, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess once you have the systems, then this can be visited. And for testing, you can just create some mock-up projects, right? It doesn't have to be anything real that you put in there.
Another thing I don't think we discussed was the design aspect of the application. Currently, well, I already applied the purple logo and the icon here, but this is what's it basically based on. I think Kleinkrove was the person who made these designs. He mocked up a couple designs for the application currently. He started with the bottom ones, and then he improved the design to this one where it has the three factions, the China, USA, and the GLA. This one looks a bit weird when it's small, so I cut off the daggers, which looks a bit more streamlined and sharp. Any opinions regarding the design of how it looks, of how the application would look? Or like the color scheme, for example, like is purple a better color than yellow, for example? Is it more iconic, or do we go for something less catchy and more standard, more black and white?
Yeah, I'm not a particular fan of like how it looks right now, but it's also not so important.
I take everything as long as it works and it's simple. I think that's my most concern. Like, if we over engineer this, like if we need to think outside of our bubble. I think like Zezon sleeps with with GitHub, also like Daniels or Undead maybe, but we have to respect that there are a lot of players that are just users. They just want to run a setup, and on Generals Online, for example, we see people that fail to select the game folder, right? So very very basic task, they fail on it because they are just users, and we really need to think at one point to simplify the whole GenHub thing. For example, if I want to join a lobby, and even if it lists up all mods or presets or everything that are there, people will fail to search and install them. We need to, like, if I want to join this match, then it shows me I don't know, it has these changes. You need, I don't know, this preset or this map. Do you want to download it? And it just has to be yes. At the moment that people are in need to search it and install it themselves, we will run in problems. So
Well, we
there
can't
will
remote execute things, so they have to install it, the GenHub application.
Yeah, that for sure. I mean, inside GenHub, we need to keep it
Yeah,
as simple as we can.
of course.
Like if I join a game, then it may GenHub may ask me, do you want to install the following things? And I click yes, and then I need to get this content. If there is a need that a player needs to search everything himself, then we will fail. This will be too complicated, I'm sure.
I'm convinced that the user experience can be simpler than Steam. I think because in Steam you have like login, account creation, and EULAs and all these things. We don't need all this jibber jabber. So the simplest user experience is you install the app, you start it, you start with the default publishers that already ship with the GenHub application itself, if they are part of it. Otherwise, you import them from, if someone gives them to you through Discord or in a web URL or somewhere. And then you have these boxes and you click download and run. That should be the user flow. So if a user can't do this, then then he also wouldn't be able to click the buttons in the main menu of the game, I would think.
Regarding the contributors, how many people are here that are actually willing to contribute and want to work on a task besides Eres, who already made his intentions known?
I think RS said he can contribute. Is he still here?
I am, but he said except for me, so I was sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, +1 people is still doubling the workforce, right? So
that's true.
And triple the pressure. Let's go.
Oh.
I will do more help with the C# GenHub.
I remember, Kian, you had a comment regarding the Steam installations. I mean, the Linux installations for detecting the game installation on Linux.
Yes.
Currently, we don't have a way on Linux to accurately determine the game installation, so that is also one task that needs to be worked on. So it would be appreciated.
Yes.
If you do work on it. I
I'm
can give you some heads up if you need more questions on how certain things need to be implemented. For concretely, I mean. So
Yes.
if you need questions regarding that, you can ask those as well.
Yeah, I will ask because I was about 4 weeks away because of exams, and I don't know how there are a lot of new coding project, and I don't know what are they for. So I need a little bit time to inspect the code or I will contact you for inspection. If you can't give me heads up, it would be nice.
Sure. We can find some time, and then I can explain the entire game installation. The hierarchy of how the game installation starts from the top down to the individual, for example, the EA app installation for
Can I ask
getting it
one
on
thing in the
EA.
meantime?
Sure.
I'm curious about something because I have very little experience with Linux. But let's say that I push some commit or whatever, or I have a PR open. Is it expected that other than tests, I also have it working both on Windows and Linux? Or is it fine if we? I don't know. I don't think it's
If it's
reasonable.
a
for
Windows
me to test
specific thing, then yes, because we have tests for Windows and Linux separately here.
Okay.
So, and then you can just make this test for them. I think I made here. Where's my tests here? I made different tests, for example, for the Linux versions and the Windows versions for like the installation detector and the update installer.
But are
So
they
if it's like a
both?
separate feature, then yes.
Are they both about equally important then? As important, I mean. So let's say I add some feature that is on your milestone board, and I say this is done. It's working for me on Windows. That is not sufficient then, I assume.
Well, most of whatever you implement is going to be working on Linux most of the time, unless you do something that's specific to Windows. Like
It's more of a theoretical thing. So
yes,
I'm just curious
it's
what
just going to
happens.
depend on the concrete implementation that you have at the moment. For example, the update installer, I had to use a different script for Windows and Linux, so I had to separate them into platform specificness. Or else I could have just made a single update installer and then a single test would have been enough. I didn't have to test on both platforms.
Yes, if you make a change that is, if you add a code that is not dependent on OS, then for 99% it would be okay. Otherwise, I would check.
Sure,
Yes,
that's great. Thanks.
Fine.
Okay, but anyone else is working on this project beside us three?
Sky Aero is reviewing it. He's been the one who's been reviewing for like all my commits and stuff. Besides that, they can speak up if someone's here.
On the previous point, I just wanted to mention that regarding Linux, game client right now is 100% targeting Windows. Like there are efforts towards Linux, but for our first release, it's Windows only. So that's the main priority.
Yeah. We shouldn't focus on Linux too much then for the first release.
I was just going to say, what do we consider as a minimal viable product for the first release? Because some of the features so far sound like they're nice to haves and future functionality.
I think, yeah, phase one here, these are basically the three features here. Download and update content. This is the content pipeline which I've implemented, the content acquisition, the resolution, and there's one more. Acquire, resolve, and discover. Yeah, discover. The three content pipelines components that make up the download and updating of these different contents. It is the high level overview and the concepts of it are already in place. It's just that the implementation, for example, for scraping and going to CNC lab and making a discover for converting all those stuff into a proper content manifest, for example, those are not in place, but the skeleton and the architecture for implementing the concrete implementations for this are in place. This one I just showed the managing of the game profiles. That was basically what I was showing right now here, how we can manage the different game profiles and how then it gets saved and loaded into CAS by creating a separate workspace for each content that you have selected here. And then the last one, which is I also said it's not. It doesn't have to be implemented, but it would be a killer feature to have with our first release is the peer-to-peer LAN connection. Basically, it's replacing Game Ranger and allow everyone to play on GenHub instead of Game Ranger. These three are the main points.
I don't want to discourage your efforts, but in my opinion, the LAN connections are not important for now. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think that like discovering the content that's most important, managing it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that LAN connection side of things is going to be a significant block of work in its own right to essentially re-implement something which is equivalent to, say, Radmin or Game Ranger.
Makes sense. I haven't really touched that part at all. And if we had more people signing up, I was like hoping some of the people would then work on those aspects of the application, and then the other requirements can then just be ironed out by me. Because I also like in the milestones mostly these three, and then these four issues. If these are done, then the MVP requirements are essentially complete. Yeah, because the Game Ranger currently doesn't work. We still have not implemented the Game Ranger workaround yet. The directly launching the game is implemented, displaying all available games in the UI. It's also implemented the content basically. It's just the big part of it right now is also the code reviews, which I don't think I mentioned. Currently, I have these four. I think it's four. Yeah, I have four pull requests open. This one's not mine, but the 89, 103, 105, 107 are the are basically the big things regarding the MVP requirements. This is the content. There's a good discovery for managing and updating content. The cache storage is needed for secure storage, and then how you create the workspaces from them, and how we deduplicate the files instead of how we want to store or download them. And then the game profile and the game launcher is actually launching the application and making sure the workspace gets prepared and launched.
So what do you expect when it comes to pull requests? Because who am I to tell you that something is not good? Or whatever. What am I supposed to look for during the pull request? Review, I mean.
That's a good question. Well, first of all, like just simple code stuff, code logic, concepts of how things are implemented, like using primary constructor for everything, file scoped contribution, file scoped. I mean, file scope namespace instead of block scoped namespaces. These are like small things you can first look at, and then you have the higher level over it of does the system that's being implemented make sense, and can it be does it follow the principles of the application, of the GenHub application?
Okay.
Some concepts like those. Anything specific? Well, I mean, Sky Iro has been reviewing most of my stuff, so you can also ask him how he has been doing it. And he's been doing a good job so far at it.
Generally, when you review code, you want to look for bugs, obviously. Performance can be a consideration when you see that something is implemented inefficiently. And of course, like overall design of the implementation, if the system is overly complicated or confusing to understand, if things can be simplified, right? Things like this.
There's a person in the chat that says he would like to contribute and has a question to you on that. You may want to take a look into the chat.
Oh, Mr. Alir. Oh, I thought I gave him The role? The contributor role? Okay, yes and now. I think I've somehow slipped out. What's this question? Okay, sure. Is there any specific thing you want to work on, or just expertise that you have already there, or do you just want to just be onboarded on the current state of it, and then decide on what to implement? While he types that, like I said, the current urgent things at the moment are the pull requests. So that people also, because the pull requests, they're also kind of early, as in these systems are new in place, and by reviewing these pull requests, people can also have the understanding of the application. Because if you don't have these systems in place, it's basically just these systems already done, and it's not much. Which only has the manifest system, which is basically a couple models and functions and interfaces to make sure that the manifests, the content manifest, can be loaded, can be interacted with using other services, and how they're standardized. That's basically the only thing, the most important thing. I mean, you have to get up to date with how the manifests work with. And as we review the pull request, you will also get up to date most with the current state of the application regarding how all the launching stuff and the content acquisition and stuff works.
Does the GenHub app update itself as well?
Yes. That was the update module I added in one of the PRs here. It looks for the GitHub releases here, and then it downloads them. For example, I have here my own release, for example, on my repository here. Do you see this on my screen? Okay, you can. Like a test release here, and if you download it, it will automatically update. Like this one. Download it, it will open, and then it automatically searches for an update because this is always a higher version than what's being installed, so it then downloads that and installs it. Same way, like if you install the current GenHub application and you set your repository to search for this repository, it will also download this release, the current GenHub application.
So depending on where you download it from, it will update from that source you got it originally from?
No, you can pick where you want to download it from. Like you pick the repository, and it will search the repository for releases, and then compare the releases tag, and then if it's newer, it will download that, and then test the entire script for replacing the files inside of it, and then basically updating it that way.
And so, okay, so then I guess there will be like a default download, but the user can change it.
It is flexible like that, but it's more so if people have their own forks and they want to work on their own forks, then they can create their own release and then fork from that, and then download that by updating, for example, from their fork.
Yeah, so my expectation is if I download it from Community Outpost, then it will update from Community Outpost, unless I change it to something else.
Yes, I don't think I added it, the current settings here. I might have added, or maybe not. Yeah, I didn't add it. But yeah, it can just literally be a setting here, and instead of Community Outpost, it says like update source, and then you can change it to a different source. But I added another, I think if I find the pull request here.
It sounds good to me, yeah. Very flexible.
I actually wanted to ask, how are we going to publish GenHub? I think publishing on GitHub is not that easy to use. Maybe something
Oh no, we have
like
our own websites. We're gonna have our own website.
exactly. I was going to say something like GenPatcher that has its own website.
Well, I think people are familiar with this website. It's just a WordPress website for documentation. Basically, have the same something like this, but it's gonna be generalshub.com. The domain is already claimed by Arctic. We just have to make the website for it.
Mhm.
And then start with pull request, because there's also an open pull request here for the WordPress website I've opened here, yeah. Which is basically for this, and then this sets the groundwork for it first, because we want to have the documentation directly in the game and then the repository itself, so it's accessible as well. Because currently it's just what I've put up, an a markdown file here that WordPress then loads
Okay,
for the
so
following.
okay. Do we have any plan for the hosting or the
Hosting.
server? Are we going? I mean, is it going to be on a server or is it some website? I didn't understand.
We have not really delved any way into this. We haven't really thought about the website itself, but it can be simple GitHub actions or GitHub pages, static page, or it can be a full-fledged server running on a VPS somewhere. There are many ways of implementing it. It's just someone has to start with a simple PR, and then we can discuss it as well of what can be done different, can be made, can be improved on it.
Okay.
Same way, like I just made this WordPress PR, and then once it's merged, I will then implement the full documentation and then also add the documentation files in the repository. But the website will have its own repository on the GenHub, Community Outpost, which will probably be GenHub website or the GenHub site, and then maybe a new repository here. I think
I have another question. All communication is supposed to go via you, I guess, on that.
well, I would prefer if people voice their opinions in the Discord chat. The Discord channels, the Hub chat, for example, and then everyone can also communicate through there. But if you're talking about like management and stuff, currently, yes, I'm the one managing it. So questions regarding those have to be go through me currently. But
Sure.
ideally, it would be more streamlined.
And more general, you mean?
General, yeah.
As in a dev GitHub chat thing, and not directly to you, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, because I know who Sezon, or at least I've seen his name, of course, and contributions, and I know who you are now, but I don't really know who else is involved and who does what within this project. So
Yeah, like I just mentioned, SkyIro, he's the main code reviewer I have for the GenHub project. Currently, we also have Fort Keen, who made a couple requests a couple of weeks ago on his willingness to work. And then we have a couple of people signed up, like I think Aribal was one who signed up, Ali Reza currently, who was chatting, and then we have you. or at least those are the people who are in this meeting. There are also like other people who have signed up directly. I think 12 people have signed up in total, and half of them said they were going to show up, and then half of those showed up. So we'll see by the end of this week, maybe, if more people reach out after this meeting, if they want more concrete information about the tasks to work on and implementations to get more information on.
Just to give more of like the way I see it is that GenHub is one of the most important tools ever created for the game. It's just that no one knows it yet. Okay, so the work here, I think it's one of the most important work besides the work that goes into the game client itself, because there has never been anything like it for our game community. Like the status quo is that game content discovery and installation is an absolute mess, which is also the reason why communities are so splintered and you don't have much cross participation between mod players or retail players, right? So like people stick to their like small niches because it's so hard to acquire these different things and to get it running and managing it, right? It's like you see like mods have their own launchers and own installers, and then you have all these different tools like Gen Patcher and Gen Launcher and Gen Tool that deliver contents, and it's just a total mess. And with this tool, the promise is that everything gets streamlined and simplified and unified. And so, yeah, if you work on this, then I think this is very valuable work that goes into there.
Yeah, like Jason said, it's an important and also at the same time a complex project because of the requirements and the limitations imposed. For example, like having it decentralized as much as possible, and then giving authority to the publishers and the users themselves. So there are hurdles to overcome and challenges to be met. Now, I think we've gone over most of the things I wanted to discuss. I can also give some technical explanation of the manifest and showcase basically how everything ties together. Basically, you have the content manifest class here, or the object here, where everything is being defined from the content type. Wait, not content type here, which describes basically what each content manifest can be. It can be like a game installation or a game client, which only can be one, or a different type of content. It can also be a content bundle. One thing I did not really test or delve deeper in is the bundling of content manifests. So, for example, if you have one content manifest that's a bundle, then it has to also refer to different publishers and other contents. This will be in the form of a bundle item then, which is this object. This is then also a content. But this system hasn't really of bundling and then referring to other publishers has not been fully fleshed out either. It's just a simple mock-up of how I think it would be implemented, or ideally could be implemented. That's one part, one thing regarding the content types. It also contains, like the manifest itself contains the game type, which game it is, targeting, for example, information about the publishers themselves. Wait, can I? No. Okay. It has some simple metadata about, and this is where we can also include like the UI changes, for example, the specific UI. the content metadata can have UI configurations for interacting with for allowing the publishers to showcase what the application is going to show. Can have some screenshots, can have a JSON file or actual properties instead of a JSON on actual properties here, showing telling what to render and which colors to use. An important thing for the manifests also like dependencies and conflictions. For example, if you have a dependency here, it can have a conflict with different IDs, for example. The content ID is then the ID of this manifest, which I also still have to we still have to discuss about how we're gonna classify these IDs. One idea for this was using a GUID, and another I mentioned is using the publisher and then separated by a dot and then the name of the content. Like it could be Steam 0 and then the manifest version, meaning 1.0. Or if it's like publisher for ModDB, it can be ModDB author 1, and then it can be Contra and then the manifest version. This way, this still stays unique despite having different manifest versions. And then back to like the dependency again. The dependency is also kind of important because it's gonna display all the available content when you select like a game installation or game version. It will, especially here the conflicting with, it will have to decide which content you can't combine and which ones they are actually compatible with. If the publisher wishes to actually to determine that. We also have the content reference for referencing other publishers. The known add-ons. This is an old property. I think it's not being used anywhere currently, and I will be deleting this property soon because I've not used it and I've added for maybe add-ons, and it's just a legacy property. You have the manifest files, which this is basically the files themselves. So a single content manifest can contain multiple files. So for example, if you have one mod that has data and textures, then these will be represented as a manifest file. And in this manifest file, you basically have the following properties. The path of where it contains relative to the root directory here. What kind of source this manifest file has to be retrieved from. Currently, most of them, if you get them via a publisher, for example, it will mostly likely say remote download, and then it will download them and then change the source type to the CAS, so that's it's stored into CAS and then marked as such. And then next time this content manifest is being loaded, it can be directly loaded from the CAS instead of remotely downloaded again. So metadata about size, its hash file. This is also important because we validate and verify every manifest, not every time, but every manifest file does get verified based on its hash, and how and afterwards we also store them using its hash in the storage system. It's just the content addressable storage, the CAS storage. This is the endpoint for the manifest file itself. So each file will also have their own endpoint to get the content. These are basically most of the manifest file properties. Last, we also have like instructions for example, if there's like a standalone application like an anti-cheat or an upload application for replays, for example, there's an installation instructions property which will run the set of installation steps for example, running hooks or commands, the command line arguments like before and after, which is simply a command that gets run, which are a couple arguments, and then where it gets run. This is so that the application can be run before or after the game is run. This is basically so what makes the content manifest itself, and also the core of basically every single piece of content that the user has to interact with. Now, this also ties into the game profiles, which I've recently worked on, which contains a bit more properties, but it basically contains all content IDs, a list of all content IDs, and then these get searched for in the cache system and then loaded directly into the game and into the workspace. I mean, for the workspace to be prepared. Because the workspace has to address these content IDs before it can prepare the workspace using the strategy, the ones like this strategy here, and then it has the following strategies for symlinking or directly copying. By default, we're using the hybrid copy symlink, which copies some files and then symlinks others, but everything can also be just symlinked. These game profile objects, models are also being converted to JSON in our directory here. Go to GenHub here, and they get saved here, and like in these directories, the manifests here are saved under a JSON file, and then it's basically this is what's being read and persisted on for the application. Same with the profiles here. It shows each profile the user has, and then these get loaded every time the game starts, and the settings for persistence for user settings. The cache should be empty now though, because there's no real objects for the cache pool currently. Because we don't have a content, because one of the features I've earlier brought up is the manifest builder. We have to build the content manifests first, and there's no reliable way to currently do it. There's no service for it in place, but there is a content manifest builder. But there's no UI for it in place. That's the correct way. The manifest builder here. This one builds the manifest with like a series of chainable methods like basic info, and then it adds basic information like publisher information, version, and then what kind of game it is, and then other type of information. And then in the end, you can build it using the build command. Wait, no, it's the wrong one. Builder. Wait, I manifest builder. This, yeah. And yeah, with the build command, it then builds and then returns a complete content manifest item. This is also being used for currently for the game version, because we have to convert the game version into an object as well if we want to separately load them in. Because I close the application now, but we still we have to allow users to distinguish here between the content based installation and game version if they want to switch. So the content, the game version itself will need to be a manifest, and the base installation will also need to be a full manifest, because the linking of the workspaces works based on the manifests. The workspace manager, it loads them based on the manifest. It uses specific strategies here as well. I had a base workspace strategy. Wait, and this one. So these strategies are based off of a simple workspace-based strategy, and then for symbol specific implementations, they have their own. Like the cast link here, it's like an abstract function, and then gets linked here, for example, by the symlink, which creates the create a cast link here, and creates a cast link for that. But also they also have their own prepare workspace, so that they can prepare them based on the concrete implementation of the strategy. Any other system that was important was the content discovery system, content provider, content orchestrator, I think was it? Yeah. I think some people have already seen it in the architecture here, but that's how the orchestration of content works. Of the resolution discovery and acquisition. I thought I had one for orchestration as well. But basically, you have the 3 components here for discovery, resolution, and acquisition. The discovers are here. For example, they discover from the website or from the file system or from GitHub. They basically, in a sense, scrape it, the HTML, and then return a search result that the next component in line then use for resolving or downloading content, for example. The resolver is just converting whatever the search result gets here. It takes a search result and then resolves them into a content manifest. In a complete content manifest, that way we have a simple JSON file that can be stored in a pool. Now, these are the following: the discoverers, the deliverers, and the resolvers are the components. You also have the providers, which is the higher level overview, which controls those resolvers. Which controls those components. It basically has, for example, the CNC Labs provider will have different content discoverers and resolvers. I think GitHub is a better example, because for GitHub you have different resolvers for if it's an artifact, if you're downloading a release, if you're getting a build. These have different ways of discovering the content and then resolving it into a manifest file themselves. So the provider is the high-level controller that does it. And then lastly, it's the orchestrator, which is the controller of the providers, if that makes sense. So we'll have multiple providers for like GitHub, CNC Labs, and ModDB, and the orchestrator is what's being called to orchestrate these providers. So if a person, for example, wants to search for maps, the orchestrator will be used, and then it will call the correct providers to search for maps. For example, it can call the CNC Labs and the ModDB content provider, and then use these providers to discover maps. That way the user interface and the user flow remains clean. And then they just click on maps, and then it will be separated and filtered out for each provider. Not filtered by a tag, not like separately filtered, so they can click on which source they want to consume the content from. That was mostly, I think, the high-level overview of the 3 systems I've implemented so far. The manifests are being stored in a content manifest pool, which is just the directory which uses this cast storage as well here. This was I implemented this first before we had the cast storage, and then after the cast storage, I just made it so it uses the storage service, the content storage service here, and then this one uses the cast storage, cast service. So it directly hooks into the cast service in the end anyway to store the content manifests. I see Aldo Analytics just send a message, a new contributor. I'm always open to fresh blood, more hands. Who's this person? I can assign them the roles already.
It's Ahmad is his name. I can link you up if you're done here. Then I can like get contact between you two, and you can talk about how you want to start and how we can help you. I think that's the easiest way to go.
Sure. Regarding these, the explanation, are there questions or notes regarding this? I was more so asking the contributors like Ares or Kian or maybe Aribal or Ali Reza. Do you have some specific concerns regarding what I explained, or is there some doubts or unclear parts?
So far, it makes sense to me. Of course, I don't see the full picture yet, but nothing out of the ordinary, I guess.
I think it's obvious for me, but I'm trying to get into the mood, you know. But the manifest, I think all manifest stored as JSON files on the client locally, right?
They are being persisted locally in a JSON file, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
They're also
orchestrate-
like,
yes.
like there's also like memory caching, but that's also a JSON file. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Like for example, the map provider, you have multiple, like GitHub and
Content.
Steam. Yeah. So
Regarding these,
the user, for example, search for a specific map, it will search for all providers, or he have to select specific one.
For the user experience, there would most likely be a filter, and then they would all be selected, like for every provider that we currently support. Then if they search, for example, for maps, they will get a more refined search depending on what the provider itself allows. For example, CNC Labs may have more refined searches for maps than ModDB. So that's supposed to be
Each
implemented in a way.
Yeah. Each provider, we can call API, specific API for each provider to search for maps. Like CNC Lab has specific API to search, for example.
That works because I was
as
mostly making like these as like high level skeleton of how it would be implemented. So you don't exactly have to follow the components themselves. So the provider themselves, which is the highest, which combines the components, can itself like you said make use of the API key or the API. I mean, and because I didn't know that CNC Labs themselves had an API. So if they do have an API, it's way easier, and we don't have to rely on search URLs to filter out and find maps.
you search for a website directly. You extract the HTML and search for specific tags like this. You extract the website.
Well,
They have no direct APIs.
I don't know if they do. I thought that was what you were saying, that they do have one, or
I don't know. Just ask for like.
you were
There
just saying as
multiple
an example.
providers.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so I don't know if they have one, or but if they do, that would be useful. We might have to like. If it's better first to talk with those people involved before we actually implement it again concretely. But yeah, if they do have an API that we can directly pull from, that would be useful. But for GitHub, for example, there's like an OctoKit I use, which handles most of the API clients for getting like the releases or builds, and then it cleanly maps them into objects from OctoKit, and then I can convert them easily into content manifests down the road.
Okay. But to understand the whole picture now, the build for this application like abstraction, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Abstraction is in like low-level things are being abstracted. What do you mean?
High level. Like you construct an interface and you still not have implementation.
Wait, say it again. I just got a notification and I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah, I say like the construction now for like providers, it's like abstraction classes now, right?
Oh yeah, well the base is an abstract class, yes. The base content provider, and then everyone else inherits from those classes and then implements their own. Because the base is just like the resolver, the discoverer, and the deliverer, so that they can make use of these. But yeah, they are an abstraction to the components themselves. Or like the high level overview of controlling and orchestrating and basically doing the discovering, the resolving, and the delivering in one service. Now you obviously have the different providers for them, and then you need something to control those providers, and that's the content orchestrator itself.
Understood. I pulled the code from GitHub, but
Yes.
latest version has some exception, I think. I run it.
Yes. You have to get wait. You have to pull from this branch. This branch
Master
89.
branch.
I made one configuration, like I made a pull request for adding user and configuration settings, and in one of those I forgot to register the iConfiguration service, which now then throws an exception. But in this pull request I already resolved it, so it should not be throwing the exception. Yeah, Vitex brought it up here and I resolved it.
Okay.
Anyone else with concerns or inquiries?
Thanks for all the info. I'll take a look at the pull request tomorrow, probably.
All right. I think then that's a good place to end this meeting. It's been about 2 hours. I've been well 2.5 hours if you count me being late, and I think people got more information about what the project is and how to work on it. We can obviously chat more in the hub chat and ask questions there for everyone to get up to date. I would prefer it to be in the hub chat, because then if there's a question that anyone else has doubts about, it will also be answered, and they will also have access to the answers directly instead of a DM, for example. All right then. I think I'll be ending the recording now, and I'll be stopping the stream share. And thank you everyone for attending and taking the time out of your day to attend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thanks for the introduction.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, no, thanks for going over that, Undead. It was very insightful.
Yeah, would have been better if I didn't be late and I had to rush some stuff at the end, but like some of my stuff also got deleted. I noticed, like apparently I was a little bit more worked up on this whiteboard, but no worries, I still pulled through.
No, it was good going. It was, yeah, definitely gave a good oversight of what's there and what the overall plan is.
Cool. I'm not really used to this kind of managing and presentations and that kind of stuff, so I was just winging it as well.
It was fine. It's one of those things. It's a skill that you just build up over time. Nobody's great at giving presentations.
That's true.
Thank you very much for our presentation. Have a good time.
Thank you for attending.
Bye bye.
Yeah.